to whom it may concern. First, above all, I couldn't find out what kind of visa can be allowed to me keeping the legality. Only that I can find out was protection visa, subclass 866. I'm 31 years old now, and I hope to stay in Australia permanently. I'll keep all Australian laws and values, and I will keep my faith and responsibilities. There were lots of awful memories during my life in Korea. I was grown up by my grandmother with a loan, and I met my parents at 6 years old at the first time. At the first night with my father, he attacked my face a lot with his hand without any reason. He was also drinking alcohols, but I couldn't have evidence because I was so young and didn't know about the evidence. I cannot forget the awful memories of abuse by my father in my young ages, and he still drinks alcohols and annoys me a lot, and still shows indecent behavior in the house. When I worked in a mandatory military, all mates bullied against me. Carrying camera into the Korean military was banned by the Korean military law, so I couldn't record voice or scene of human rights abuse from military mates. And finally, I had got schizophrenia diagnosed, which was caused by so aggressive bullying. I began to cure my mental illness in the hospital, and I came back to my own mental state, but I should take medications during whole my life. The military monthly wage was approximately 15,000 Korean won. It can be transferred to $15. And the chief of South Korean military's monthly wage is approximately 15 million Korean won. It can be transferred to 15,000 US dollars. Total year's wage is approximately 180,000 US dollars. Anyone can estimate how Korean military was a legal group in human society. I worked in Korea for a long time doing motorbike delivery in the busy city, but most of employers didn't pay tax to the government, because most of Korean employers didn't want to leave their low payments evidence. Most of Korean employers didn't want to leave their crime. Even I worked over 10 hours a day doing dangerous motorbike delivery in busy city. I worked 6 days per week. Korean CEOs earn more than millions of dollars per year. They give their whole financial heritage to their children, and their children will be a CEO again. I just earned approximately 800 US dollars per month. Korean average monthly wage is approximately 1,600 US dollars. A small and cheap house price in my hometown is at least over 100,000 US dollars. The only way to buy a house is to receive a loan from the bank. If I do so, my life will be a slave of bank. I can't buy a car, which most Korean adults have. Why my fundamental social value is less than who has tremendous financial heritage. Even I worked from 20 years old. Most of Korean young people enjoy their life by their financial heritage from their parents. But I have no economic heritage, and I don't want it at all. When I applied to a company in which I want to work, they discriminate against my illness, against my ages, against my educational status, against not having evidence of working careers, against my disgraceful military history, against my family relations, and so on. When I sent an email to be friendly with a girl, a Korean doctor took me compulsively into the hospital. Even if I just sent an email to a girl who has very large financial heritage and high educated, a Korean doctor diagnosed me crazy. The reason is clear that a girl's social status was very high in Korean society. When I tell about my mental illness to friends in church, a Korean doctor took me compulsively into the hospital. And all friends in a church ignore or sneeze against me. Even there were critical discriminations in a Catholic church. I had took into the mental hospital several times compulsively and repeatedly in those reasons. And I couldn't make any evidence of so poor hospital facilities and human rights violations. Because carrying camera into mental hospital was also banned in Korea. Even Korean mental hospital also left disgraceful and awful memories in my brain. I'm always scary about that Korean doctors compulsively put me into the mental hospital again, and always scary about human rights violations again in the hospital. There is compulsively hospitalized into a mental hospital law, not only by government, but also by a Korean doctor. I saw a mental illness patient who stays in mental hospital for 30 years in severely small area. He said that he couldn't see the sky for 30 years. And I'm always scary to be hospitalized into the hospital and to be lived in a very small area like him. It made to me no trust to Koreans. And it still makes me nervous staying in Korea, and it will be continued if I stay in Korea. The only way to get free from Korean human rights violations is to get out of Korea. I stay in Korea. It will follow constant discriminations because I'm in a particular social group, so-called mental illness patients. I already left Korea in my mind and my spirit will never be back to Korea. A human's dignity is the most important above all ideals, all values. However, Korea is far away from the most important human's dignity, at least in a particular social group called by mental illness stigma. If I will be back to Korea again, there will be lots of discriminations or violations from my mental illness stigma. A very rare to find out human history directly means by junk stigma, and I will never be free from the junk stigma. During my staying in Korea, I want to remove my life history, and the only way to do so is to write this letter. So I chose to go for other country, not for economic purpose, but just for tree freedom from my junk stigma. There is no one who understands me in Korea. Korean educational knowledge books stated that a person who was diagnosed schizophrenia is like an alien or an evil. And actually, most Korean people believe that it's true. Without money, without fame, without diplomas, I hope to peacefully stay in here creating wonderful life stories and learning English. I want to follow the Queen like my grandmother. I want to be a farmer. There is no more valuable job in the world. And I want to do the greatest job in Australia. If my heath condition changes more seriously and I cannot work, it will be permanently removed having opportunity. So I punch to Korea. The moment organizes the time, and the time organizes the life. Even if I ask at this moment, it basically means to ask at my life. Thanks for your careful reading. Yours sincerely.